The lynx is one of the most elusive wild cats in North America, leading many to wonder whether wild populations still exist in the US today. The Canada lynx, Lynx canadensis, is the primary lynx species found in the US, and despite being rare, it still roams certain parts of the country. Historically, the Canada lynx was found across most of the northern US, including New England, the Great Lakes, and the Rocky Mountains. Today, lynx populations in the US are concentrated in Montana, Washington, Maine, Minnesota, Wyoming, Idaho, and Colorado. The Canada lynx is a federally threatened species in the US, meaning its populations are legally protected under the Endangered Species Act. Unlike bobcats, which are widespread, lynx require dense boreal forests with deep snow, limiting their habitat to higher elevations and colder regions. The best place to find wild lynx in the US is Montana, where they are still regularly spotted in remote, forested areas. Washington's North Cascades and Okanagan National Forest also support a small but stable population of wild lynx. Maine has the largest population of lynx in the eastern US, particularly in the forests near Baxter State Park and the Allagash Wilderness. The reintroduction of lynx into Colorado's San Juan Mountains in the early 2000s helped restore a breeding population in the state. Minnesota was once a stronghold for lynx, but habitat loss and competition with bobcats have led to a decline in sightings in recent decades. Lynx populations in the US are highly dependent on snowshoe hare populations, their primary food source. Lynx are well adapted to snowy environments, using their large, fur-covered paws like natural snowshoes to move through deep snow. A lynx's thick fur and light-colored coat help it blend into snowy forests, making it one of the most difficult predators to spot in the wild. Unlike mountain lions and bobcats, lynx are not aggressive toward humans and tend to avoid human settlements. Wild lynx sightings in the US are rare because these cats are solitary, nocturnal, and prefer remote wilderness areas. Lynx populations in the US have been severely impacted by logging, climate change, and habitat fragmentation. Because lynx need large, connected forests, roads and human development make it harder for them to migrate and find new breeding areas. Lynx numbers fluctuate in response to snowshoe hare population cycles, which naturally rise and fall every 10 years. During hare population crashes, lynx struggle to find food and may travel hundreds of miles in search of better hunting grounds. Conservationists are concerned that climate change is reducing the amount of deep snow in the US, limiting lynx habitat. Studies show that as snow levels decrease, bobcats, which are more adaptable to warm climates, are expanding into lynx territory. Bobcats and lynx compete for food, and in some cases, bobcats may even outcompete lynx in areas with mild winters. Lynx were once found in New York's Adirondack Mountains, but the population was wiped out due to hunting and habitat destruction. Attempts to reintroduce lynx to New York in the 1980s failed, as the released individuals did not establish a stable breeding population. Unlike mountain lions, which are making a comeback, lynx populations remain fragile and require ongoing conservation efforts. One of the biggest threats to lynx survival in the US is illegal trapping, as their thick fur has historically been prized in the fur trade. Trapping bans and increased protections under federal law have helped prevent lynx from disappearing entirely from the lower 48 states. Camera trap surveys and GPS tracking show that lynx are still breeding in Montana, Washington, and Maine, proving they are not extinct in the US. Lynx prefer dense spruce and fir forests with plenty of cover, making them difficult to observe even in known habitats. A single lynx requires a home range of up to 50 square miles, which is why habitat fragmentation poses a significant threat to their survival. Lynx are highly territorial and will defend their hunting grounds, though they are less aggressive than bobcats and rarely engage in fights. Unlike mountain lions, lynx do not take down large prey like deer, relying almost entirely on snowshoe hares and small mammals. Wildlife officials continue to monitor lynx populations using radio collars, genetic sampling, and trail cameras to track their movements. Efforts to reintroduce lynx to certain areas of the US continue, but habitat protection is the most critical factor in ensuring their survival. Despite their protected status, lynx populations remain vulnerable to environmental changes, human activity, and food shortages. The best chance of seeing a wild lynx in the US is in Glacier National Park in Montana or the remote forests of northern Maine. Lynx are sometimes mistaken for bobcats, but their longer legs, larger paws, and distinctive ear tufts help set them apart. Bobcats have shorter tails with distinct black bars, while lynx have a solid black tipped tail and more uniform fur coloration. The Canada lynx is closely related to the Eurasian lynx, but it is smaller and more specialized for hunting snowshoe hares. Lynx populations in the Rocky Mountains are at risk, as warming temperatures reduce the snowpack they rely on for hunting success. Despite their rarity, lynx are not extinct in the US, and conservation efforts continue to ensure their survival. Lynx populations in Canada are much larger, and some individuals occasionally migrate into the northern US to establish new territories. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has designated critical habitat zones for lynx, but enforcement of these protections remains a challenge. Hikers and wildlife enthusiasts occasionally capture rare footage of wild lynx, helping researchers track their presence in remote areas. Lynx kittens are highly dependent on their mothers for survival, and habitat disturbances can negatively impact breeding success. Increased human activity, including recreation, logging, and road building, disrupt lynx movement patterns and hunting behavior. Alaska is home to one of the healthiest lynx populations in North America, with thousands of individuals thriving in the state's boreal forests. Because lynx populations naturally fluctuate, scientists use long-term population studies to monitor their numbers and predict future trends. Despite their low numbers, lynx have proven resilient in certain regions, and continued conservation efforts could help stabilize populations. With the right protections, lynx could continue to thrive in parts of the U.S., ensuring that this iconic wild cat remains a part of America's wilderness.